All right, here we go. So I'm gonna walk uh, you through the kind of work that I did for this game jam with the drone company. I thought this is kind of things that I do with a lot of friends, which is sort of like do a breakdown of uh, their games when people share the games that they're working on and they want feedback. A lot of times, I essentially look at and play the games and then kind of give feedback. And I do end up recording like a session like this and send it over to people via YouTube. I thought like why not have something similar, not necessarily like a breakdown, but more or less behind the scenes of what I was doing with uh, the drone company game for the viral glitch jam fade out. Yeah, so I heard about the jam when I saw I think Gurpreet post a video about the jam, or maybe it was a live stream, and I think it had already started on the fifth, I suppose, on the fifth, I think. Um, uh, yeah. Anyway, so I think it started on the fifth. But I think I heard about this on the fifth. I think I saw the live stream much later, like not live, the day after, and. Yeah, and I thought, oh, it's interesting. And at that point, I didn't really think about the theme as such, which is predictably unpredictable, and some of these things like fake choices, unreliable narrators, or and glitchy aesthetics. All of this kind of psychological thing. All of this was like very interesting. But at that point, I think I was just getting off of working on some Godot stuff. And for the past couple of weeks, I was just playing around with Godot. All my weekends were like just trying to, and a friend of mine was essentially trying to get me up to speed with um, like how to like do stuff in Godot. And it was really nice. So yeah. So and then this jam pops up, and I'm like, oh, I can't use Godot. I have to use GameMaker. So I said, why not? Let me just try and sort of see what I could do. So interestingly, I had an idea. I had an idea at some point where I was working with a friend of mine. It's just I like we started working like I don't know what the date of that was there, but I forgot. So yeah, it started at some point trying to do a game about drones. I don't know what this. It's very old. I haven't like, really. Um, it's just a. It was like a temporary project. Let's see if it works. It should work, but yeah. So yeah, it's I don't know. It was called Till the Cows Come Home or something. And we were playing around with the idea of like drones. And I think I had like built this sort of a thing where this was just a mini game, and I wanted to do some sort of a like yeah. This was just yeah. This was very hard to control at this point. And so like this idea of like kind of flying around a drone was there. And then, oh yeah, you're kind of out of bounds, kind of an arrow to show people where you were if you're out of bounds. I think some initial work I did, which kind of got scratched. I think just show. I think there's some things uh, maybe I don't know what is the what is yeah, I did some random work which this never really got completed. This never really took off beyond what you see here. Um, and I think we started the same thing. Yeah, let me just pull that. Yeah, so yeah, there's some ideas here. Um, you can see there's like a beam. You use this tractor beam to carry things around. I don't think I have a camera follow set up here. Also bounces off stage. Uh, yeah, so this idea kind of there was this idea of drones for a while, which I think was already sort of in my head, and uh, so so that idea was there for a while, and when I was like, "Yo, what should I do?" and I just really wanted to, and I think by the time I started, it was already like the eighth or something. Can't remember. Um, and it was a bit. like at that point I was like, oh, let me just see if I can bring back this idea of this drone, and if there is something else narratively interesting that I can also pick up. Um, so yeah, so I picked up these things and essentially tried to build on top of it. The first thing I think I did was to do a bit of sort of quick, because it was a jam. I didn't really want to spend a lot of time, and I think I kind of wrote down a bunch of scenarios on like Figma, and it was like, hey, you kind of sign up, and then you do some basic training, um, uh, and then you do some missions, and then some guidance missions and some delivery missions and all that, and then sort of subvert it in some sense, and then like you had this failure to comply and your contract gets terminated and stuff. And it was um, like early, and I wasn't super sure what um, I wanted to do. I didn't. I wanted to do like a side view kind of a thing initially, which this is a screenshot from one of my other projects, which I can show you, uh, which is this. This is just a wave function collapse generator, which basically this menu is also from that. Uh, and if you start this, you can see that it generates a bunch of. So yeah, so this I thought maybe I'll use like a generated world and scenarios, which is where this, let's close this, um, this came about. And I was thinking of maybe like evolve that style a bit, something, and I was just playing around with this, like a sort of a drone side view thing, uh, which sort of evolved into like something else. I kind of just like a reference, and I kind of drew a top-down view in Figma. It's all like vector stuff. So that's where it started. And I was like trying to figure out like how do you place it in a space. I really wanted like a very bright kind of a space. Wasn't sure. All of these references are from Pinterest at this point, and I'm just trying to kind of place the drone in these spaces and see and kind of get a scale, an idea of scale. Like if the houses are this big, how big does the drone need to be? Some of these like really cool stuff. Like like just I think Pinterest for all of us is like a rabbit hole. There's a door. Yeah, it's it. If you start going down this hole, it's really difficult. And I think so. This one, sort of the scale of it was like interesting. And I think this is, I mean, trying to build a shadow, I suppose. Yeah. And this one is, I made it in Incarnate, which is this like tool slash service, I guess. And I was trying to build those maps. We'll come back to them and I'll talk about them after. I think this was one of the early basic training maps. I thought it was just a bit. It was the first time I was using it. So, and I think then I built it like on set. So it's like you can see it's like 7th I came and explored this. And 17th I came back and then made this. And on 19th I made this. This was the final map that shipped. This is like that test map I was trying to do. So I got a bit. This tool needs a bit of getting used to. Um, so, and I wasn't super familiar, but like a lot of these DN, so these maps essentially are like possibly are like D&D campaign maps on Pinterest. If you look at them, I can also show you my Pinterest board. Will show up if I show you my Pinterest boards. Yeah. So this was just like yeah. So it started with like I really wanted like a lunar, like very bright, stylized pixel art. Maybe that's where I kind of started with, and I collected these kind of references, um, and then and then and I liked this idea a lot, like this kind of a grid, um, and I did there's a generative grid in the game also. Um, and yeah, and then I kind of mock this UI on top, and I like this idea also, which is sort of there, but um, yeah, and I like this guy's work also. This person has a um, Summit Games maps. I think again, I think there are all D&D sort of campaign maps that people make. But this is fully in 3D. You can see the perspective change depending on how the camera is set up and how the 3D objects. So these are all 3D models, and this looks really nice. But maybe in 3D is much better in 2D. I don't know. I didn't like. I really like this, but I didn't have a time to figure this out. Even if I wanted to do this, so I stuck with sort of Incarnate again because the first experiment was in this. I think I can show you a video of how that sort of just kind of the mock-ups and all uh, the basic explanations I did for this. And I think there is some. I think it's the earliest video I have of the thing, um, which is essentially the same code. I just slapped it together with that image, that same code that you saw from the the drone, the other game that I had, and I just slapped on that map. And I think I did make like a shadow because it's like a long time ago. I did a game or I was trying to do a game where I can actually show that also. So um, like it's a Flash game, so I have to see if I have to pull up my Flash player and um, this was a flying game, uh, which is like a Flash game. This is back in 2011. You can see, uh, and it was called Basement Cat. It was just very old game. So there is a volume. So yeah, so this is that old game. So you can see that as your speed increases, you kind of take off, and then you can shoot bad guys, stuff like that. And like you, I mean, it's sort of weird. Like I really like games like this, um, and I really wanted to make a game like this for a long time. So if you slow down, you can see like that fake shadow kind of coming in for a landing. So yeah, so very old things. But yeah, so like a kind of similar trickery there with the shadow here. You can see that there's a small shadow. You just attach that, and it basically an offset. So as you slow down or land, it basically just comes physically closer to you at a particular pixel. Yeah, so I think that was the earliest, uh, and what else? So I think the movement and the background sort of an idea was already there. And I think the next time I got some work done, I think maybe I did. I think I may have done a bit more. Yeah, I think this had like the UI in some sense. I think there's a battery rate happening and some. Yeah, I think I did like that job system. So right now, I think there is there are a set of jobs which are available in this video. And when you finish one, the other one gets activated, and the other one gets activated. So there is no sort of going back to the base situation happening here. And there are three types of jobs also in this. Once you just go and kind of touch, and then once you need to land, and once you need to just hover over. So this one you have to land for it to get completed. So yeah, and there is no base in this. I mean, you start off at a landed kind of thing, but though that job is not active, this is the first job that's active. So it's just if a job is active, nothing else is active. But once a job is done, the next job gets activated. That's how I think it was. And I think closer to the end, I think I had like a on-screen like basically this premise like, oh, there's this contract you have to sign, and then you go in, and this being like the training area for the game. I think the battery thing is at the bottom, and it also has like that. There's a color for the battery levels as well. I think this is closer to the like how it is now, where you have a base, you have to go and do jobs um, and come back and land and find the next job. I think at this point I was just like had like a bunch of job systems in place. Uh, yeah, so that's the I think that's like the last of the videos I had captured to show people. And I had this menu from the other game, the it's open like the WXFC experiments actually had um, like the I had this menu which was just like a um, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, so this menu uh, uh, essentially is from this project. Um, and if I show you, I mean, the biggest difference is that like a lot of things got changed about cleaned up in this project. I think again, this is just randomly put together. So like, I think that menu got like a lot more like focus in the sense that it like a lot of it got changed so that you could customize it a lot more. It's like almost like a drag and drop menu now. And what else? What else? What else? What else? What else is interesting in this to see? I think like I had I think I had Scribble and input in the older project. I had taken everything out, so and I just like rewrote just an input checking mechanism which just uses like basically like a similar setup. I mean, just because I didn't have the time to like, and I didn't want to change anything much in the actual flight code, so I just wrote this, which just checks input and returns. Probably not the best way to do it, I suppose. Like for the polling and the checking for him. I don't know how input works, as in the input library that like the Juju Adams runs. But like this, like anyway, it does a job. It does no controller support at the moment, so it doesn't matter. And I think that's the yeah. Like these are all yeah. This is like a this is how I started, I guess. Like basically like here the job flow and like a job type, like a job class, I suppose. What's really nice was that you could have a callback, um, and so that callback essentially, I mean, usually there's like a target also, like an object. The callback was essentially like an action that you had to perform. So per frame, um, like the like my job manager somewhere, let's say I had a job manager, which basically um, it can be optimized and cleaned up and all that. At this moment, I'm not even checking anything. But I am. Uh, it, I'll come back to this and clean this up at some point. Maybe there's like horrible code, but essentially, I am calling that for every active job. Uh, this is then when there were multiple. I had this idea of multiple jobs active at the same time. Not at the moment, but it can work like that. So, but for all active jobs, essentially, what it does is doing a for all jobs which are active, it's essentially calling the job function um, the action, which is basically this action callback that you can assign. So I have separate functions which does it. Like essentially, this is like the work that the drone needs to do essentially. So in this case, it what it does is this job function just checks whether the drone is hey, did it like if the job is sort of active, um, am I sort of is the drone inside the job target radius? If it is, then it is done. So this is like the simple touch job. Similarly, there is a waiting job where you have to wait around for a time for it to kind of. So each job is sort of encapsulated. It's like self um, sort of it works on its own independently. So this function takes care of what the condition of the job is. So it could be anything. It can be extended to. So I'm basically just extending that same like this I just took it and then extended it to so that you have to wait a bit, and this is the one for landing. Technically, you can finish this job by landing also on it. We can fix that, but I didn't. But this requires you to basically land specifically on the job for it to work. Um, yeah, there's three types of jobs, and then my job essentially is like I don't know. I mean, everything seems to people are okay with using globals and stuff. I guess so. In the game, each job is a target actual object, which I'm. This is the instance name of the object in each level. So in a room, if I go in our, let's say the training day is this. So each of these jobs essentially have like an instance name, and that's it. There is nothing else. That's the only reference I have. And instance names are also interestingly globally accessible, which I didn't know. And they need to be unique also. That you can't have the same instance name in two different rooms also. So there is that new learning. And so coming back here, so you can see that each job is a target. It has that callback function. It has a title and a description, which basically shows up on the when you're playing the job. And so these are all the jobs for day one. This is all the jobs for day two. I've set it up in a function so I can reset it if I want to. I mean, maybe not the best way, but then this is the global reset function. And you can see that the game wallet also doesn't get reset because reasons. Um, like and if I want to add more jobs, essentially ideally I should make a new map and then add a bunch of jobs. And the whole idea was that the sort of the narrative that I was aiming towards would be kind of told through the jobs themselves. And that's the whole idea of this title and description and the specific. So it's essentially just a flavorful delivery game, and you read it however you want to read it. That was the hope. And then yeah, stuff like this also ideally, hopefully, trying to subvert that in some ways. But anyway, so you add more jobs, and then this array goes bigger, and then you have more levels and more stuff. I want to do 10 days, so which is also why in the beginning you see when the game starts that it says, oh, you know the contract is for 10 plus 1 days, including 1 day of training, and 10 days of game. So yeah, this is that refactored menu object thingy. All of this are just pop-ups at this point. So yeah, start on the 12th, even if I was just noodling around with the idea on the 8th. And yeah, carriers. And so this says 10 plus 1 because of that. I wanted to do 10 days and plus 1 day of training. But yeah, didn't get the time. And you can disagree, it takes you back. Back, which takes you back, just close the menu, sign starts. So this is the title, this is the content from the job. You look at, go back. So if you look at day one, job one, you can see same thing, click, drag, and accept the gig. So all of that. All of this is coming from that class. I mean you can change all of this here. It says the timer is 180 seconds. The distance is basically from um, the base to your the target. And I think I'm just taking like uh, dividing it by 32 as like 32 pixels is like 1 meter or something as unit, which is why it's saying 6. There's no penalty for this by default. There are no penalties, I guess. Um, this is the number of credits that you get. This is a verified job. Yes. Is this optional? Yes, you can skip this job. You can not this skip, as in if you end the day, even if you don't do this job, it is fine. Skipping doesn't cost anything. Skipping is just skipping, and it loops back actually. Uh, so if you skip, it comes back to 0. And ideally, you don't want to recharge. End of the day, skip. There's a bug I still need to fix. There's a so this one is just go here. That's a simple touch. So if you go outside, um, and if this goes into recovery auto recovery mode, what happens is there's a bug which just immediately charges you like a ton of credits. So that's a new bug I found the other day. So let's just do the recovery. I'll just show you. I don't think many people. I don't know if people are seeing the recovery thing, but it's nice when you can do it. Um, I mean the recovery inside. So if you run out of battery, you kind of land on your own. There is no way you can take off, but it auto lands again because you're out. And recovery, you can end the day and close, um, or you can do recover and charge, which costs like 1,000 credits because you auto recharge and also recover. But it does this on its own. It takes you back home, recharges your battery as well. Then you can go ahead. But ideally, you shouldn't ever have to do that. It's the most costliest way of getting stuff done. Yeah, so that's this game. That's the sort of amount of stuff that I've done for this. A lot of people are not able to even finish this training day. It's also because that once you lose in the first, once you if you go below 1,000, negative 1,000, the game ends. If you start the game again, you start from the training, and your balance would be minus 1,000 because we're not resetting it. If you want to really reset it, you have to refresh the browser. This was like a conscious choice. I wanted to carry over. You can also skip this entire day and go to the next one. My wallet balance is negative 400. It's fine. I can still manage. And then, uh, yeah, so this is where the game is. You can also pick the ones that you really want to pick also. So this is like a pencil uh, ride. And yeah, I can show you the map uh, in its entirety. It's like a huge map. Actually, I again, I have not really made games in Game Maker where my rooms are like really large. For instance, this room is like 2048, 2048 large, and this is like double that size. So I have personally made maps this big. So this is your player, and this is your sort of screen size that you're seeing. I have no idea, and at this point, because I just did not have the time. This is also like a tremendously big 4K texture, and I have no clue how that's affecting things. Um, I really wanted to spend more time with Incarnate and or some other tool or even like within gaming. I just did not have the time to figure this out. Um, but yeah, so these are all the jobs at this moment. This is the yeah, and I think there are two things. One shows you when you're outside. One shows the job if you have a job or a gig which you can kind of travel to. So those are the two boxes. Um, so if you accept, it shows you where the next gig is and where the so this is the timer, 180-second timer that the gig was going to take. So once you're done with it, the hey, there's a new gig available. If you that side shows you. Cool. So that is the drone company. So I think if you go to I don't know, uh, yeah, this is the jam page. I like yeah, this is the game page, um, and you can play it. Uh, yeah, you can play it on GX Games, and yeah, see how it plays out. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or leave a comment, and see how this goes. Yeah, so that's that. Thank you and goodbye.